Hello, this is Jacob Wilson. Welcome to the MTG Pro Life podcast. I'm here with Matt Nass. Um, he's currently a member of the Rivals League, tied for first place this year. He's in the MPL last year. He's won Pro Tour Top 8 in Honolulu, 13 Grand Prix Top 8s, including 5 wins. He's known for getting a lot of decks banned, including KCI. I don't think Rally ever got banned. And
No.
you had some involvement with Eldrazi as well. You,
Yeah, that one I don't take too much credit for, but
you stream on Twitch somewhat often. And I believe you were the number one ELO ranked player at one point with a
yeah, during the KCI stretch, I think I got to number one. Yeah.
rating of 2241, which is a little bit higher than I've ever got.
Nice.
You're one of the original members of CFB, then later Ultra Pro. Looks like you played your first Grand Prix in 2007, but then didn't play for a while, and then you started playing a lot in 09, 10. One thing I
Yeah,
was
that sounds
surprised
about right.
by was, do you know the website Social Blade?
No.
It grades people's social media, and you got a B minus, which is really good for a Magic player.
Oh, okay. Nice. I don't really do very much. I feel like, but
So how are you doing? Has the coronavirus impacted you at all?
I mean, not so much in that I spent a lot of time at home, kind of worked from home regardless, but it's still scary, and I'm definitely still stressed out, and yeah, I used to like walk to my old office every day, even though I quit my job just to get lunch with the people and just to being outside is kind of nice. And not being able to do that is still a bit of a negative. And I was playing a lot of sports and stuff like that, and I can't really do that. So I'd say the effects on me are probably smaller than the average person, but it still definitely has some real impacts. And also just the stress is definitely higher.
Yeah, I have been playing tennis with these people who work at a casino, and I definitely don't want to play with them for a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So when did you start playing Magic in 2007 or
I
earlier than
think
that?
before, yeah, I started in Kamigawa Meriden around there. So basically, like modern is exactly when I started playing Magic. What's legal in modern?
All right. Well then, yeah, you have experience with all the cards.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
then, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
my first Grand Prix was Grand Prix Oakland in 2010. So my
Nice,
first impression of you was that you were a champion.
nice, nice.
So, but did you start playing competitively a lot in 2009?
Yeah, I think that's about right. So I went. Me and my like best friend from middle school, high school times learned at the same time and started going to F&M. And then at the time, JSS existed, which I think is one of the coolest things that Magic's done. And I'm kind of really, I always lobby whenever I talk to someone from WotC to bring it back because I think it's really cool. It was a tournament only for people who were under 18, a tournament series, and they would have qualifiers all over the country, and then they'd have the championship at nationals, and it had I think close to or maybe even the same prize as nationals, like $10,000, but it was all in scholarship money as well, which I think sold it pretty well to parents as well. So I played on that. I made the championship for that 1 year, and then yeah, the people I went to F&M with just kind of kept encouraging me. Yeah, it was a great group. It included like Toby Elliott, who is like on the Magic Rules Committee and was a level 5 judge when that was a thing, one of the highest ranking judges. And yeah, they did a good job of showing me the game and encouraging me to keep trying more and more competitions, lending me cards, helping me out in that way. And so they were really supportive. And then yeah, eventually I went to regionals and I qualified for nationals one time and I started playing PTQs as well. At the time, there was people always used to say, "Watch out for that guy." There's basically only 7 slots in the top 8 if he's here, and the guy they were pointing out was Luis Scott Vargas. So that's pretty funny. He was just dominating PTQs at the time.
Yeah, I also started playing PTQs in the Bay Area, and it was tough at that time.
It, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So for a while it was Luis who was like the scariest person. Then he kind of stopped PTQing because he was consistently qualified. Then there was this guy who I played against once, and I thought, oh, this guy must be horrible. He can't even shuffle his cards, or like doesn't seem to know what's going on. And then he just destroyed me with counterbalance top and played perfectly. And that was Josh Sutter Layton, who had basically only played Magic Online for the first 2 years. um,
Did
and
you
there
play
was,
Magic Online?
I think a little, but I don't think I played a lot. Like I was mostly a paper player at the time. Uh, there was David Ochoa, and then later on there was, yeah, you and Sam Pardee, and yeah, all sorts of. The Bay Area had a lot of Magic talent for sure.
So how old were you? You were a teenager of some
Um,
age.
yeah, when I won Oakland, I think I was 18. So 2010, I was 18. Uh, so yeah, when I started playing competitively, maybe 16, 17, something like that.
When I was in high school, I played all the time, even though I had school. Did you play like during the week and stuff?
Yeah, I played some. Part of it is I wasn't in the best headspace during my teenage high school times, and I was kind of struggling with school, so it was pretty nice to have something where, yeah, it was good. It was kind of an outlet, and yeah, something that where there was a lot more people who were like me and who I made friends a lot easier in the Magic community than at school, that sort of thing. So I think it was good for me in some ways. It didn't necessarily help with the actual getting schoolwork and keeping good in all my classes stuff, but yeah, I think for me it worked out. I wouldn't necessarily recommend everyone put school on the back burner for Magic, but
Yeah, I felt similarly. Like when you play Magic, you can only think about the game, and there's a lot to think about. So it's a total escape from everything else.
yeah, yeah, it can definitely dominate your thoughts. And even when you're not playing, when you're really all in, like we are, or most pro Magic players probably are, it's really dominating your thoughts the vast majority of the time, even when you're not playing.
So you won GP Oakland with Elves, and this was extended, which is not really a format anymore.
Yeah,
But
modern is the closest parallel.
and I think you won. You hadn't played a Pro Tour yet, but you had just recently won a PTQ.
Yeah, so that's kind of a wild story. Sam complains because I tell this story too often,
I don't even
but
remember what it is.
it was when there was the online PTQs had no like required
Oh,
qualifier for
okay.
them,
All
and
right.
so this was in Zendikar, and it was a sealed PTQ, and then the top eight is draft. Um, but you Yeah, so it had, but there was no qualifiers, and at the time they were just really popular. So there was maybe 500 people in this BTQ, and I had a deck that had no rares, but it had the two best uncommons in the format: Vampire Nighthawk and Trusty Machete.
Yeah, both of those
Um,
cards are like better
Better than
than
most
most
rares.
rares.
Yeah, yeah, they were both absolutely ridiculous, especially the Nighthawk. And so I go like 10-0 in the Swiss. Maybe I lose my last round or something, and you needed a record like that, 9-1 or 10-1, to make the top eight. So then I lose my last round, but I don't really care because I'm already locked for top eight. And then I'm waiting for the draft to fire. And it seems like it's taking a long time. And at some point, I look and I see that the clock on my computer has a different time than the clock on my Magic Online. And I realize that my Magic Online has just crashed. So I quickly try to close Magic Online. It says it's not responding. I quit out, open Magic Online again, and most of pack one in the top eight is done. And this is like heartbreaking for me because I think at this point I had done well in some PTQs before, like maybe even lost in the finals of a couple. So I kept getting close to qualifying for the Pro Tour, but I never made it. And then at this point, playing down a pack in a PTQ top eight, your odds of winning must be already really low. But I have some red cards. Mono red is pretty good in the format. I have like Spire Barrage, deal one for each mountain you have, stuff like that. So I go mono red, Then I lose game one in the top eight to a clearly better deck. Game two, I mulligan to four. My opponent keeps seven. But it turns out they kept a one lander. They get mana screwed. I win that game. And then just like cobbling together 20 damage each game, like just through burn spells mostly, I managed to keep winning and winning. And I just win the PTQ. So at the worst point, I was, yeah, down one pack basically, down game one in the top eight and on a mull to four, and then I came back to win. So
The
that was pretty sweet.
greatest comeback of all time.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of new players have probably joined Magic because of Arena, and they don't even know that this was two mulligan rules ago. So you didn't get to look at 7 cards every time you mulligan. You didn't get to scry. You just get 4 cards.
Right, right. Yeah, no, exactly that. Yeah, I just had my 4 cards. I even still remember the hand. It was Mountain, Burst Lightning, and I think it's Hellfire Mongrel, the 3 mana 2/2, where if they
That's
have two or less
awful.
cards in hand.
I thought it was going to include a 2 drop for sure.
No, no, no. They went turn one Swamp, Vampire Lacerator. I Burst Lightninged it after making them take one. Then I played the Mongrel and played another creature or something and just did 20 damage with those two creatures. Something like that. Yeah, it was wild.
Okay, so after you won GP Oakland, it was in January, and the
Yep.
pro year used to be lined up with the calendar year. So you
Yeah.
started with 10 pro points. You're probably player of the year,
Yeah,
but
so I
then
have 10 pro
it
points.
didn't really work out, did it?
No. So yeah, I have 10 pro points. I'm first in player of the year. And I already have so winning a Grand Prix gives you another Pro Tour invite, and I had one from the PTQ. So right there, that's uh, two Pro Tour qualifications. Then the way it worked back then is winning a Grand Prix was 10 pro points. Each Pro Tour you attended was minimum two. And at 15 was level three, which I guess is the equivalent of old school silver, one more qualification. And then at 20 points, you got the full qualifications for the year and the next year. So I have 10. I'm going to get at least two from each of the Pro Tours I'm qualified for. That's 14. Then one more is going to get me another Pro Tour invitation. That's 17. And then three more from that will get me to 20, and I'll be qualified for everything this year and next. So I felt like I was in a great position, and I knew I wanted to attend, as many Grand Prix as possible, at least in North America, to try to give myself the best chance to do that. So I go to San Diego. I bust out of that. At the time, one of my biggest issues was I was pretty bad at draft. And drafting at a pro tour is so different than drafting at your local FNM or with friends, whatever. Like these people, like maybe now, I do pretty well in draft. It's hard for me to think about it, but at the time they were just destroying me. Like I just had no idea what I was doing. I probably wasn't reading signals right. I probably didn't have the best card evaluations, and I was just getting murdered in draft. So I don't know specifically which, but I 4-1 O3'd some pro tours because constructed used to be first. So if you're 4-1, you only need to win one more match to make day two, and I just O3'd. I know I did that in Paris at least. And yeah, it was tough out there. The pro tour is a different animal from your local scene for sure.
Yeah, if you just draft at your local store or you draft on Magic Online, people rare draft. They take cards. They don't hate draft. They might even take basic lands if there's full art ones in the draft. But
Yeah, it's just really different, and yeah, like you're used to not ending up short playables, and then you just go to a pro tour draft and you just have to play some really bad cards because yeah, you're just not used to running into that issue. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's pretty weird. So I struggle at the pro tours, and I'm struggling at the Grand Prix as well. I think I day two'd some, but I'm not getting many extra points from those. So I did get to the 15 to qualify for one more. I think it went San Diego, then San Juan, and I qualify for Amsterdam, I believe is the third one. So I play that, but now I think I get one extra point at one of the pro tours and maybe two from a Grand Prix. So that's exactly 19 points. And then I'm trying to get that 20th point that will both allow me to qualify for Worlds, which is in Chiba, Japan, and getting that last point for will allow me to qualify for everything next year instead of just one pro tour next year. Um, but no matter what I do, I just can't get there. I go to every North American GP. There weren't as many GPs at the time, but it's still a decent number. And in the end, there's one more tournament before Worlds in Japan, but it's a Grand Prix in Florence. And at the time, I was still pretty young. I'm 18, maybe 19. No, still 18. And I haven't really traveled alone at all. I've only traveled with friends, even, yeah, to international stuff, whatever. But I decide I really need to go to this. I want to get that last point, want to take my last shot at it. And so uh, I get that flight to Florence, and I'm basically going to Florence just for a weekend, just to play Grand Prix. I get in like Friday, leave Sunday. It really was just kind of. I flew probably spent more time flying than I did actually in Florence
Do you remember if you're able to sleep or if you were
on the
messed up
flight.
or like jet
I
lagged when you got there?
yeah, I think I was somewhat jet lag. I'm pretty good at sleeping, not really on flights, but just in general, I fall asleep pretty easily. So I bet I wasn't too destroyed, but it can't have been good. Um, and I miss at Florence too. I lose playing for day two, and I'm just heartbroken. So I end with 19 points. I don't get to play Chiba, and I'm not locked up to play everything next year either. Um, but then they added, maybe they already had it, but no, it was kind of secret. But there was this weird rule where if between a year and half of the next year, you got 25 pro points, you could still play everything in the next year. It was like they wanted to give something to the people who barely missed. So even though I only had 19 at the end of that year, I easily get to 25 with the first half of the next year. And so I did end up playing all the pro tours next year, and then that's kind of where my consistently playing in pro tours started.
Okay, so that was 2011 where you were
2011,
playing
yeah,
every pro tour and you were 19.
yeah, I was
Uh,
19.
and did you take a year off between
Yeah, I was,
schools?
yeah, yeah. As I said, I was kind of struggling at this point. I don't know exactly the timeline. I'm trying to think, but yeah, I think I was maybe, yeah, still trying to finish high school. I'm not 100% sure on the timeline, but I may have still had some extra time with high school. And then, yeah, so, but I was still, yeah, not doing great in school and mostly on the Magic. So yeah, it may have been kind of like a gap year as well.
And then how many pro points did you get in 2011?
Good question. So I feel like I got more than enough to be the equivalent of gold level 4 at the time, but not like a ton more. But
Because I can't remember exactly when, but I think I met you and Sam at PTQs, so you must have fallen off at some point.
yeah, it was also like because that year I did the 25 point rule thing, I was probably still PTQing some. Yeah, the timeline's a little tricky. I'm trying to, yeah, what pro tours were that year? So that year was like Philadelphia was your first one, is that right?
Yeah,
Is
2011
that
was the
that's 2011?
first
Yeah.
modern pro tour.
Yeah, yeah. So before that, there was a couple.
What deck did you
And
play at the first modern pro tour?
I did well at that one. I played Blue Red Storm.
Yeah,
Most of my
this
team played the Wild Nicodle Negate deck. That was like Zoo but anti combo. But
yeah
yeah, I just played Storm.
yeah when modern was first released, you're allowed to play with Preordain, Ponder, Rite of Flame, Seething Song. Did you play all those cards?
Yep, those all those cards were in my deck.
Yeah. Well, I played mono green, so I didn't make day 2.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I had Grape Shot Pyromancer Swath was my kill. And I remember I almost top eighted actually with 2 rounds or maybe 3 rounds to go, but I knew I could draw the last one, so I needed to win two in a row. I was playing against Affinity, and I had Pyromancer Swath Grape Shot and everything set up, but I had a Peer Through Depths, and I could either play at end step to free up more mana, or try to play it on my turn to add to my storm count. And I thought the mana would be more important, but then as it turned out, I could have spliced a Desperate Ritual onto it, so it only would have cost me one, and I ended up one storm short of killing. And then I won the last round, but I was already dead for top eight, so I got like 17th or something.
Very sad.
Yeah, so that one play haunts me to this day. Maybe I could have had another Pro Tour top eight. But yeah, overall, I had a solid year that year. Um,
We definitely weren't testing together, but
yeah,
we
we
definitely
weren't.
knew each other.
Yeah, we knew each other, but weren't close friends. Yeah, maybe that was the year. There was one year where I made level 6. I had 30, which is 30 plus pro points, which is kind of in between gold and platinum, I would say.
According to the ELO project, we've played each other twice at Grand Prix or Pro Tour. Do you know when?
At Grand Prix or Pro Tour, I know one was. I know you beat me with like the Teamer Lotus Cobra deck, but that wasn't a PTQ. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was extended. You were playing fairies, and I was playing my standard deck.
Yeah, how did I lose to your standard deck? That's embarrassing.
But yeah, that's not in the ELO project, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So the
At
first time
Grand
we
Prix or Pro
played,
Tour?
the first time I played was Grand Prix San Diego 2011. I think that was
Okay.
at the end of the year. It was
Is that
draft.
the one that Nathan won? No, that's draft. Okay. The one Nathan
It
won is
was
way
the one
later,
that
right?
it's someone we know. It was Shahar Shenhar,
Oh, Shahar Shenhar won. Nice.
and I was playing Esper with two Ghoul Collar spell.
Oh, okay. I vaguely remember this. Yeah, your deck was horrible and you beat me
Yeah, I
anyway.
ended up with like 16 playables, so I played 20 lands and this one mana artifact that mills each player.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. And then what was the other one?
GP Pittsburgh 2015 in Modern.
Oh, Amulet versus Jund or
Yeah,
something.
and
Yeah.
you won, but uh, in reality, I was just off of Magic, so I scooped you.
Yeah, well, and it was really good for me, right?
Yeah,
It gave me another qualification or something.
it worked out really well for both of us.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So I'm doing pretty well against you. And normal,
Yeah,
but I looked up my win rate against the MPL last year, and it was like 39% or something.
yeah. So you can only beat me. You can't beat other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
So that was 2011. But at some point, you
Yeah,
you did go to college. When was that?
yeah, probably around there. It's my memory is so bad.
I feel like
We
it might have
need
been like
Sam Pardee.
it might
He's
have
the
been
Matt
like
Nass historian.
2013 or 2014.
Yeah, it was probably around there because I did take yeah there I probably took some time off and it also yeah it took me a little longer to finish high school because I was struggling. Yeah, I mean I actually didn't finish. I got a GED in the end.
Well, that's at least something.
Yeah, it's
GED.
finishing adjacent.
But yeah, like I was in high school until 2013. I was definitely at your house.
Yeah.
So
So
you
yeah,
must have still
at
played
one
Pro.
point there was a stretch where we did mostly with you, but sometimes with Shahar as well. We did Camp Nasty, where Jacob would come over to my house for like a week before a big tournament. At the time, mostly Grand Prix, honestly. Grand Prix felt bigger then because I think there were less of them and there were just less places to earn points. But yeah, Jacob would just come to my house for a week. We just play nonstop basically. And we had some pretty good decks. We had a teachings deck that Jacob lost playing for top eight with. I don't know what else we can. Oh, we had the blue white deck where Jacob top eighted and I got ninth in Calgary. We had some good decks from that.
Yeah, mostly control decks for some reason. But
Yeah, but it was cool. It felt good. It really feel one of the most satisfying feelings with basically anything, but with Magic too, is when you work really hard and feel like you did something smart and different, and then you get paid off for it. To me, that's one of the best feelings, and I felt like we got that a couple times from Camp Nasty.
yeah, it felt like a summer camp. We were at a college campus, eating in the
Yeah,
cafeteria, and
yeah. So yeah, at the time, my dad was kind of a dorm dad. We lived attached to a dorm in like a cottage, and so we got to eat at the dining hall, which at Stanford is actually pretty nice. Uh, and yeah, you're on the campus, which is really pretty, and there's a lot of kids there, students around, and yeah, it was a cool setup.
yeah, I think the decks we made were the ones you said, and then we also had like a turbo fog deck for
Oh, was that a WMCQ?
yeah, right when they
Yeah,
started the World Magic Cup.
that one we didn't do as well with, right?
No, but
But
yeah,
it
the
is what it
the other
is.
decks we did well with.
Yeah.
And so you went to Oregon. Did you
Yeah, I went
play?
to University of Oregon for a year.
Did you play less Magic while you were there?
Yeah, I played way less. I was playing Pro Tours, I think, in some tournaments, but for the most part, what and I think I played Grand Prix too, but in during the week I was playing almost zero. I was pretty focused on school then. I did pretty well in school then. So what I would do is I would watch actually Cedric Phillips stream.
Oh yeah, when he was qualified for a Pro Tour, it was like Stream Team or something.
Yeah, even before that though, he was just streaming a lot, and I was friends with him, found him pretty entertaining. Uh, and so I would just watch him stream and tell him everything he did wrong, and that was the way that I was able to like stay in playing shape even though I wasn't playing.
Yeah, even to this day, I think you don't like playing as much as other people. You like to watch.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I do. I do. I've been when I was in the MPL especially, I felt like I just have to put in the work. Like the stakes are too high. But I definitely prefer playing with friends or watching friends play, or I like the social aspect of Magic. So playing solo just on Moto or whatever isn't really my cup of tea.
Okay, I skipped this a little bit, but you were on in the heyday of Team Channel Fireball. You were on the team, right?
Yeah, so I was probably the worst player on Team CFB, but it was a lot of Bay Area guys, and I was friends with a lot of them, so I kind of got them that way. And I do think I was a good teammate. I do think I'm a pretty good deck builder, and so I think I provided value.
Did
But
you?
yeah, the team was insane. It was stacked.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
it was Luis, Raptor, Ochoa. Who
Yeah,
else?
Luis Raptor, Ochoa. Uh, After Brad Nelson kind of had his crazy year, he joined. Who else was on it?
And at the
Mark.
time, there weren't really other teams, so
Yeah, we were like the only team, and in like it was a 10 to 15 person team, and we were averaging like two or three in the top eight. It was a dominant team as well.
were you on the?
Sometimes with crazy decks, sometimes with like Zoo and Tempered Steel and just boring good aggro decks. But
Were you on the
Paulo
team
was on
for
it.
Cobblade?
No, actually, ironically, that was when I was in school at Oregon, and I could only commit to taking 1 week off, and at the time the team was taking 2 weeks off, and so I got kind of kicked off the team
Okay.
just because I couldn't commit enough, not because
Yeah,
anything else.
that's another reason
So
why they're so dominant. Like other people just show up and like these are the
yeah,
best players preparing for 2 weeks. Like
yeah. So they'd always have a great constructed deck. Yeah, the Cobblade especially was insane, but even the solid ones, like we had a really good Tempered Steel list and block for Nagoya with Hero of Bladehold in the sideboard. Everyone would board an artifact removal, and then you just had this busted creature. Uh, We had just the good zoo list a few times. So yeah, even the normal decks just had really tight lists and did really well. Yeah, Paula was on this team. Martin Yuza, Lucas Blohan, who is kind of actually while he was on Team CFB, he didn't really go off that much, and then later he had really good results. But I think he's one of the more underrated players.
former number one ranked player in ELO rating.
Yeah, number one Elo.
He
Yeah,
ranked he reached like 2400.
yeah, yeah. No, not just number one, but insanely high. Yeah. Did he top eight two pro tours in a year? I know he had a
Yeah,
crazy
he
stretch.
did.
Yeah.
He won one of them with like an
Yeah.
unplayable deck.
Oh, the black. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was playing like black white control, all removal, no win
Yeah.
conditions, and he just beat
Yeah.
Emrakul player after Emrakul player.
He tricked Sammy pretty good in that top eight. I remember he like attacked with a shambling vent and Sam wasted a removal spell on it. And then the next turn he played Kalidas. I
Yeah,
thought that was pretty clever. Yeah. Great
happens the
player for
best of
sure.
us.
Yeah. I don't know who else was. Yeah. There was all sorts of people on that team, but they were all just insanely good.
Yeah, like lots of people put Luis as the number one player. Lots of people put Paulo as the number one player now.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah, and they were kind of the consensus one and two at the time as well.
and Juza and Raptor are both in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, oh, almost everyone from that team is in the Hall of Fame except me.
Oh, was Ben Stark on the team?
Yeah, Ben was on the team.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And after Oregon, did you take a year off or did you go directly to the
I
next school?
transferred. Yep. So yeah, I wasn't really enjoying Oregon that much. I kind of didn't have many options because I hadn't done that great in high school, and so after doing well at a year in Oregon, I kind of had more options, and I kind of wanted to try to get closer to the community that I had in Magic with my school community, like have kind of a high density of really smart people. So I wanted a smaller, more intellectually oriented school, I guess. Like, in a school like Oregon, I think a lot of people can succeed because you can always find a group of smart people. But, and I actually did have some close friends. Maybe I would have been better off staying. But I thought for me, yeah, trying to find a smaller school would be better. So I went to Worcester Polytechnic Institute near an hour out of Boston, which is where all the GP Bostons are held. For those of you who have gone to those,
Yeah, probably a lot of people will know if you've ever been to GP Boston or SCG Worcester. It's right there.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I actually got to walk to a GP, which was pretty cool because they did have one while I was there. But yeah, somehow even there, for whatever reason, I still wasn't that happy at school. So was still playing a lot of Magic, and I think between transferring kind of already putting you at a disadvantage in terms of making friends, and like I was gone a lot of weekends because I was traveling, and I'm just not the best at it to start with. I was not. I did fine school wise, but I was not happy socially. Um, so, but yeah, I was still playing Magic. Uh, yeah, a bunch of Magic. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what timeline this was. Yeah, what
This was
I prob,
like 2015.
yeah. So this is maybe when they introduced gold and stuff like that, or around there. There was also something weird where because they kept going back and forth on whether it was January to January or July to July, which is of course still happening now, which is kind of funny. They double counted Pro Tour Philadelphia, which was really good for me. Maybe that's a little before. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so maybe was this Barcelona times around, like the block Barcelona?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think I needed a pretty good finish at Barcelona to maintain uh gold status. But and then I got it, which was sweet with oh yeah, the green red bonfire deck.
So
Yeah, yeah, 6-0 draft.
at this point you weren't on CFB again, and you tested with like
Oh, Team Panic, which was kind of motley crew of people who knew each other and some Bay Area people, some non-Bay Area. It was all over the place, but it was a fun time.
a lot of people who played Magic Online would recognize Ship at Hala and Sip at Hala.
Yeah, it was a lot of Magic Online players, I guess, Baconator as well. Yeah.
A lot of really good players. Was Shahar on the team?
Yeah, I think Shahar was. Yeah, it was a wild crew.
I was qualified for that
Um,
Pro Tour, and but I hadn't really tested with anyone yet. So
yeah,
I played
yeah,
Fettergeist, and I went 1-1 and 8 in constructed,
nice, nice.
or 1-8-1.
Um, 181, yeah, that's pretty gross. Yeah, I 6-0 draft in Avacyn Restored, which is known as one of the worst draft formats ever.
Yeah, me
So
too.
I think people sometimes make fun of me and they're like, oh yeah, because I kind of at least had a reputation for sucking at draft. So people are like, oh yeah, obviously the only format Matt can 6-0 and is the worst one ever. But it is what it is. I still think there was a decent amount of skill to be had there. Obviously, like Magic and draft are always going to be pretty skill intensive, kind of regardless of the format.
Yeah, that was an awful format in draft and constructed, but there were still good players in the top eight. There was Finko.
Yeah, at the end of the day, winning is winning. And yeah, the bonfire deck seemed good, but I didn't have any black in my deck, so in the mirrors, I lost every mirror where they were jumped, and I was just green red. So I lost 4 mirrors. Those were the only matches I lost in the tournament. So we made a pretty big mistake there. That was also the Nephalia Drown Yard Pro Tour.
Yeah, he says he has no black, but he was splashing Nephalia Drownyard in his green red
Yeah,
aggro.
so that's another good story. Might as well fire it off. So yeah, we were playing this green red mid range deck with Wolfir Silverheart that gave the creature it was soul bonded to +4/+4, and just like a bunch of big creatures and damage based removal because we were green red, but we couldn't really kill a big creature. And there was this card Tree of Redemption, 4 mana 013, and you could tap to switch its toughness with your life total. But there was this weird thing where the way the layering worked, if you put pumps on it, every time you tapped, it would essentially gain you life because it would switch its toughness with your life total, but then the buff would be applied to the new toughness. Um, so you would soul bond it with Wolfir Silverheart, pump it up 4. There was also increasing savagery that gave +5/+5 and could flash back to give +10/+10. But it was a defender, so it could never attack. So in a lot of the post sideboard games, if neither person had the black removal, you would just both like go to infinity life and it would just go to decking. And so people on our team kind of decided that they wanted to have something in the sideboard, just one card that would break this stall, either one removal spell, or eventually we decided one Nephalia Drown Yard would be the best thing. Because if you remove it once they've already gained a million life, you might still not be able to win. So we decided that decking them was actually better. And I kind of thought it wasn't the greatest idea because I thought most people would either be Naya with like Fiend Hunter or some way to remove something, or black with Sever the Bloodline or removal. And so even if we thought playing removal was wrong, we wouldn't play against the true green red mirror very often. Um, so I didn't really want to play the Nephalia Drown Yard, and I thought, oh, if everyone else is going to do it, can they at least agree not to board it against me? But you know, there's always these weird conversations on teams, and people weren't super comfortable with like agreeing not to sideboard something against me. So I ended up just doing it too. And I'm pretty embarrassed to say to play a blue-black card in my exclusively green-red deck. Yeah, the reason you could use it, by the way, is you had abundant growth that could make your lands tap for any color. But it was kind of a ridiculous idea, and I don't know if anyone actually played against a another green-red deck. I think one or two people might have played some mirrors, but so I don't think it really worked, but it was kind of wild.
Yeah, that sounds very strange.
Yeah. I mean, it's one sideboard slot in block constructed. I don't think it costs very much either, but it was pretty bizarre.
So you had made like level 4, level 6 every year.
Yeah, and then I made gold this year. Yeah, even if I won my last round, I couldn't make platinum. Yeah, so I was stuck at gold. But
And then it's maybe like one of the summers you started working at Direwolf in Colorado,
yeah,
where a lot of good Magic players live and play.
yeah. So yeah, Louise at the time, Louise, Conley, and Chapin were all there. Um, and then yeah, I went out for an internship for a summer while I was still in school. Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Uh, and but then I went back to school, but I again wasn't too happy at school. This is also right after my dad had passed away, so I wasn't the happiest in general anyway. And then I left school, and then I went back to Direwolf, and then yeah, I've been in Denver ever since, and I worked at Direwolf for around 4 or 5 years after that, and then like left Direwolf just for the MPL. So
Yeah, you picked a good year to go from gold to platinum.
yeah, I think the year before I made platinum, I also would have made the MPL because I was kind of close. But then the year before that, I wasn't far off either. But I think maybe only one of those other years I would have made it. It was definite, and it would have been a lot tighter. So yeah, it's one of those things. Like obviously, there were a lot of years that you would have made the MPL if they had cut it then. A lot of Sam would have made it, I believe, every year except the year they actually cut it, which is really sad. But yeah, it is what it is. So
Oh, I think I. So you made platinum 2 years?
I made platinum 1 year, and the year before I was 1 point off platinum or 2 points off platinum. I think I still would have made the MPL if they cut it. Like I was in the top 32,
Oh, okay.
but not platinum. Yeah.
So in 2016, you made Pro Tour top 8 with Aetherworks Marvel.
Yeah, and that was definitely a big deal for me. I had played like 25 pro tours at this point or something like that, and you know that when people made those lists like best player without a pro tour top 8, I was off and on, and then that's not the type of list that you really want to be on, right? You know, it's kind of a compliment, but it also implies that you've gotten unlucky, or maybe not unlucky, but you haven't converted on an opportunity. So I was happy to get off those for sure. Although Paulo still puts me on as a joke sometimes when he does his top 5 articles.
Yeah, Paul is really good at making people feel like he doesn't know anything about them.
um, but yeah, so yeah, it felt really good to get the top 8. The Marvel deck was actually pretty bad because I was playing the kind of all-in combo one, And as it's turned out with 90% of combo decks, the best way to build it was a lot more fair. The way that I guess Jabberwocky Logan Nettles kind of got did with the green red with Ishkana and Traverse and just Emrakul, no Ulamog. But yeah, I 6-0 draft in that one as well. So I kind of got by mostly on the drafting. And the other strange part was my top 8 match. I just had no chance of winning. I played against a deck with a million counter spells, and the way my all in combo deck worked, I was probably less than 10% to win.
Yeah, Matt was playing Emrakul and Ulamog, which you'd think would be could do something against a counterspell, but these decks even played Summary Dismissal, right?
Yeah, and also that was just
And
too slow. They would just torrential Gearhole Q or something like that. I don't even remember.
and they had Ceremonious Rejection, just one
Yeah,
mana.
it was it was a comically bad matchup, and yeah, so that was a very strange feeling.
And
Uh,
you were playing a card like Look at the Top Five, doesn't even draw a card.
oh yeah, I was playing contingency plan.
Yeah.
One in the blue, look at the top 5, put any number into your graveyard, and the rest back on top, just as a dig spell.
Yeah. So that card could actually be good if you're playing against aggro or something, but it didn't work out in
Yeah,
this matchup.
no, truly horrendous. So yeah, it's pretty funny that I top aided with one of the probably weaker Pro Tour decks I've ever played, but still maybe not weak, like not low power level, but not like the win percentage of that deck was sub 50% at that tournament, and I was the only one to make top 8 with it, even though it was 20% of the field. So
Okay.
yeah,
And
it is
then
what it is.
after the PT top eights, you have a lot of Grand Prix top eights, 13. Then,
Yeah, so a lot of those are in teams. Most of which with you actually. We have how
yeah.
many team do we have?
I mean, we have three, and then you have one with Paulo, right?
Paulo and Sam. Yeah. So yeah, I have 4 team, 2 of which we won.
And then we got second in Mexico, and you got second with Paulo.
I think 3 is the most team wins. So if we had converted both of those, we'd have the most team wins. But yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, team. I love team. It's so fun. And yeah, it's a combination of you do win more because it kind of smooths out the variance if you're playing best of 3 matches. Like if you're the better player, you'd rather play as many games as possible, right? If I played best of 100 against someone I was better than, I'd win, 90% of the time or something, depending on how much better. So it reduces the variance is part of it, but it's also just really, really fun to play with friends. It's my favorite way to play. Even though in Magic it doesn't feel that teamy most of the time. You occasionally ask your friend a question, but just being invested in the same result with friends is so good. Um,
So the first Team Grand Prix we won together was in Nashville with Jesse Hampton.
yep.
He's kind of, most people probably won't know him, but he has two Pro Tour top eights and Grand Prix win. He just doesn't play Magic anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a wild one. So it's Pro Tour Nashville. There's like a crazy blizzard going on, and we make it out there, but Jesse is has a connection in Charlotte, and he gets stuck in Charlotte. The Charlotte to Nashville leg of his trip is canceled, and they're like a 1 hour flight away, but a 10-hour drive away. And Jesse's from Seattle. He's never driven in snow before, and it's like 10 p.m. the Friday before the tournament, and he decides I'm going to rent a car and drive straight there. So he's just driving on no sleep in the snow for the first time in this crazy blizzard, which yeah, got to give him a lot of credit for that. So Jacob and I built the decks kind of with Jesse. Just he gets there as we're building, I think, and is just sleeping on the table. I don't even really remember.
Yeah, we just did the whole process
And then day
without
one
him.
he's playing, but I don't think he's really awake even. And we go 7-2, and it seems like it's going to be tough. We have to win out on day 2 to make top 4, but then we do it. We have a great pool on day 2. Jesse's actually gotten some sleep. We had some crazy matches as well. I remember Jesse told me to board in a treasure cruise, and that worked out really well in this like grindy matchup. I also remember Jesse asking you for some sideboard advice.
Yeah, he was playing like Abzan, and he was playing against aggro, and he just boarded in two Thornwood Falls, which is the green blue tap land that gains one life over
Yeah,
his
and
forest. But I would not
in general,
recommend that.
coming in untapped is worth more than 1 life, so it didn't really make any sense. But Jesse's just kind of a madman. I don't know. He's on another level. So then we make the top four, and then we're like drafting, and it's Khans of Tarkir. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the attributes of Khans of Tarkir is that there's fetch lands that are pretty valuable but not very good in draft. So at some point, pack one is going around, maybe it's like third pick or something, and Jesse asks the judge, "Is it keep what you draft?"
Which was really funny because for a lot of reasons, like we're playing for thousands of dollars, you shouldn't care about 15. And then second, obviously it's keep what you draft. That's how all drafts work. And then
Yeah, it
also,
also like just kind of damaged the integrity of the draft because now everyone knows there's a fetch land in Jesse's pack.
yeah, I remember Reed Duke was watching and he was shaking his head in
Yeah,
disapproval.
he yeah, I mean, I think most people found it funny, but Reed is someone who really values the integrity of the game. And
That was
yeah,
against Pat Cox.
Warren Beasley and who was there? Oh, Sharfman.
Who-
Is that right?
Yeah, pretty good team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good yeah, that top four was stacked, right? Because then the other one was Shahar Martin or Shahar Paulo
Paulo.
and Tom Martell, who's who we played in the finals. And then the last one was also good. Who was it?
I really don't remember, but it would
Yeah, it
probably
was
work
someone
out.
else good. Yeah. But yeah, so we play Shahar, Paulo, and Tom in the finals. I'm playing against Tom, and I'm still pretty rusty at this point. I had taken not exactly taken time off like playing zero magic, but I was playing a lot less after my dad passed away. And this was like 1 year after that. So I like didn't know what all the cards did. At one point, I asked Jacob, who's sitting in the middle, if I should flash in the Pearl Lake Ancient or wait until uh, Martel's turn to try to flash it in as a blocker. And Jacob just whispers to me, "It can't be countered, you idiot."
Yeah, it's a 7 mana
Like giant creature,
6/7,
6,
but
7, yeah.
it was crazy for a lot of reasons. Like, first off, it's so valuable to ambush a creature, can't be
Yeah, like,
countered, and its opponent wasn't even playing blue. But
yeah, he had like a small blue splash or
yeah,
something, but what's the odds that he splashes a counter spell? So it basically made no sense. I forgot about the card Dragon Scale Boom,
oh
plus
that
two, plus two, untap, and I got blown out.
yeah, it was
But
looking
then
really bad.
yeah, you can watch the coverage of that, I think. But then I think I actually played pretty well the rest of the way and managed to make a sick comeback.
It was
And
another great comeback, and
yeah, that one I kind of did to myself as opposed to the other one was more my internet's fault. But yeah, one way or another, it was another pretty sweet one. And so then we win that GP, which kind of gets me back after I had taken some time off onto the Pro Tour uh and yeah, then from there, yeah, we keep doing well in team.
one crazy thing about that tournament is you have two different sealed decks and two different drafts, and Matt had Flying Crane Technique in all four decks.
I think I had Flying Crane Technique in three and Icy
Oh,
Blast in all four or something. It was something crazy like that, though. Yeah, I had both of those cards that were just like one is untap all your creatures, they get flying and double strike, and the other is tap all your opponent's creatures. If you have a 4 power creature, they don't untap. So they were both just really good at alpha striking. And I just had, yeah, 7 between my 4 decks or something crazy like that.
so
So
he got to get into a nice rhythm of trying to
yeah,
play
just
the game that way.
yeah, just pushing through damage and trying to race and always knowing that I'll win the race because of these rares. So that was really nice to play that way. So yeah, then yeah, we do well. Then there's the other team GP we won where we gave Jacob the bad seal deck both times, and Jacob just didn't win a match. But Sam went literally undefeated. He went 16-0.
Yeah,
He was
it's very
just on
rare.
fire.
Like some people have gone undefeated in Grand Prix, but it includes buys and draws, and Sam just did
Yeah,
a straight up 16-0.
yeah, and then I think he won the top 4 matches too. I don't really remember, but
Yeah, I can.
um,
It was GP Detroit
yeah,
2015
yeah, and
or
Jacob just
16.
did not win, but it didn't matter. We could have like paid someone as a stand-in to just sit there, and we could have collected the money just me and Sam. It would have been
Yeah, you would have
even
got
better.
more. And
Yeah.
I can say I
Nah.
had the worst seal deck, but I also lost in draft.
Yeah, that did happen as well. But I still don't know if we would have won with the paid stand. And Jacob was still helpful in the deck building and gave advice. He sits in the middle usually when we play. So I'm being a little harsh, but it was pretty funny to win a GP where one of our teammates didn't win at all.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it felt really nice. I just never won,
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, I won the tournament. It was pretty
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty cool. So yeah, so then yeah, so we did the team GP stuff. Then yeah, I kind of stayed goldish. I don't. Yeah, there was a few years where I barely missed platinum, and then the one year where I made it was actually the year I top eighted Pro Tour. I didn't make platinum. I barely missed. I had most kind of a mediocre year the rest of the way. Then the next year I had a more consistent, solid finish year and made it to platinum. That was the KCI year, so I got a lot of points from Grand Prix.
Yeah, so when you reached number one ELO 2241, you won back to back Grand Prix, and you got second at a team Grand Prix.
Yeah, so I got second with me, Sam, and Paulo in a team Grand Prix that was modern, but I actually didn't play KCI. I played Hardened Scales, another deck that I kind of made and worked on a bunch with Sam and a few others, Ben White's as well. Um, and so yeah, I got second at the team GP. I got top four in Phoenix with KCI. Then I won with KCI and won with in Vegas, and I won with KCI in Hartford. So yeah, that was a crazy stretch. And then I top eight. I think I X3'd one GP, and then I top eighted in Oakland as well. So I
Oh,
top eighted 4 out of 5 and won two.
that's even
It
more
was,
than I thought.
yeah, yeah. It was kind of ridiculous. And if you count the team, then it was 5 out of 6 modern. Yeah, it was quite a run. So that was definitely a pretty crazy feeling. It just felt like that deck was so good, and I was so comfortable playing it that I just couldn't lose with it. And it seemed like it took other people a while to kind of catch on. At Oakland, which is right before it got banned, there was four in the top eight with KCI, but for a while it was just me and most of the top eights.
Yeah, it's a hard deck to play, and it's really unpleasant.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely both of those things. There was also some like weird stuff, like at Vegas. My roommate Andrew Beckstrom, aka BK, went X2 with KCI, but it was just such a big tournament. He got ninth anyway.
Sad.
So yeah, that was also part of it. Um, but yeah, so the KCI stretch was insane. Then I make the MPL,
Yeah,
and I
very
have this.
very good year to do well.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. So and then I hear about it, and and I have this kind of tough decision about whether I want to stay in my job that I've been enjoying as a game designer at Direwolf or leave to do the MPL. And I
So
kind of decided that, you know, I I was in a good situation. I'd been working as a game designer for a while. I could probably find a game design job again, maybe even at Direwolf again, but that this was kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. So
so part of the MPL contract, of course, you're not going to make everyone quit their job, but if you work at a competing game, they want you to quit your job.
yeah, it was a little bit. Yeah, I don't know how much I should say exactly, but it was a little more complicated than that. But yeah, there was from both parties there was a lot of uh, weirdness where I'm working on a game that is to some degree a competitor to Arena and so from Arena, from the NPL's perspective, it's like, am I advertising this other game more than theirs? And from my boss's perspective, it felt the opposite. So it was definitely complicated from both sides. Yeah.
So the MPL, I'm sure most people know, but it's a very good thing for Magic. Like for so long, people have been playing for platinum and level 8, which was like $15,000 to $30,000 a year, and now with MPL, you get 75K guaranteed, and then like another 75K in tournament EV.
Yeah, no, it is a crazy difference. So yeah, I played the MPL this year and or last year, and yeah, I was kind of doing okay at tournaments, but I was doing kind of just the wrong amount well. Like at every pro tour, I went 9-7, which is like okay. That win percentage is pretty decent overall, but you really want to have it spikier than that. Going 9-7 at all four PTs is a lot worse than going 11-5 at one and then 0-10 at the next or whatever it is. You want to have a spiky trend line. And then I also they had the little MPL splits, and I got second in two of those when those are not exactly winner take all, but very biased towards getting first. So I kind of didn't do that well overall, and kind of had my results in the wrong places, and ended up falling out of the MPL.
Did you do well at the Mythic Invitational?
At the Mythic Invitational, I top 16. Yeah, so I
So
did
that's a
reasonably well at that one, which didn't count as well. So,
yeah. You had a very popular match against Seth Manfield. You're both
oh,
playing an
that was a sweet
Esper.
one. Yeah, so I'm playing an Esper Mirror against Seth, and he's had this Teferi emblem going for a bunch of turns, but he had kind of decked out, and it was just Teferi tucking itself every turn and blowing up a land. But I knew I had two, unlike most of the Esper list, I had two Masterminds acquisitions, which I think was a pretty big upgrade over most. And if I found, I think I'd already used one, but I was pretty low on cards as well. And if I still had enough lands that if I found my second one, I could get Unmoored Ego, take his Teferi, and he would just deck out. So I was trying to keep hitting my land drops and trying to do my best to set things up for it, hold the land in hand so that he couldn't blow up all my black sources, I think. And one way or another, even though Teferi Emblem was going for maybe 5 turns, I don't know exactly how many, maybe more, I managed to get the ego and win. But I was actually considering conceding that game at various points, so it was pretty wild. I just decided the stakes are pretty high and I have nothing better to do. Might as well stick it out.
Yeah, anyone could go look that up. It was pretty crazy. Like the Teferi emblem was in play for maybe 8, 10 turns.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long, but it was a long time. And yeah, that was pretty cool. I know, there's kind of some mixed feelings about Arena and all that stuff, but that tournament felt very special to me. Like going on to the feature match stage, having like day 9 announce my name as coming out to the fight, having like sparklers shoot out of the stage, like that's nuts. That was really cool. I thought that was really cool. And so and then after that match, there were like esports articles about that match saying how cool it was and stuff like that. Like, you know, that felt special to me. Yeah, and I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about it, but I thought that was really special.
Yeah, I think it was cool. And then unfortunately, you only were you close to making MPL this year?
I was I ended up close-ish, but not that close. Like I probably would have had to top 8 or maybe top 4 the last tournament to make it. The cut was a little over 100, I think, and I had like 85, so I wasn't that close in the end.
Okay, so this year you're in Rivals, which is still good, and you're in a position to make MPL next year because they have these Mythic Point challenges on Arena, and you win 10 wins in 2 out of 3 of them. So you're
Yeah, I got 10 wins in one Mythic Point challenge and one Mythic qualifier, I guess.
so
So yeah, I'm tied for first with Greg Orange in Arena, and then in tabletop, I'm tied for fourth, I guess, because 3 people went. There's only been one tabletop event, the Players Tour, the Regional Players Tour, and 3 people went 12-4, and I went 11-5. So I'm tied for fourth with 4 or 5 other people. I don't know exactly how many. And
yeah,
if you get first in either category, you go straight up to the MPL. Otherwise, you fight it out in the gauntlet.
okay. I think I like your chances, especially
Yes.
because who knows what's going to happen with the coronavirus.
Yeah, well, that is the crazy part. We don't really know. Maybe the rules will change. It's hard to say, but yeah, in a way, that having assuming they still do and rotate the season in the normal way, it could benefit me if there's less tournaments going forward, since I'm already in a pretty good standing. But obviously, this whole thing is still pretty crazy, so it's hard to know what will happen.
At some point among this Grand Prix stretch, you made a Spikes Academy course, right?
Yeah, I made the course. It actually hasn't come out yet, so it's still in the ether.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But no worries. But it will come out at some point.
Okay. Um, I brought up the cool match against Seth. 2 other funny matches I thought about were that time you were playing Splinter Twin.
Oh no!
So one time, Matt,
Oh
I don't.
It's
Was it at
nationals.
nationals?
Yeah, I top eighted a Grand Prix the week before, and then I was having a good run at nationals,
Yeah,
and I lost playing for top eight in the end at that.
his confidence was at an all-time high because
Oh yeah.
Yuya Watanabe had called him like a master.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yuya, I played against Yuya in the top eight of Grand Prix Pittsburgh, which he ended up winning, and he called me a Splinter Twin master.
So there were a lot of cards where you could set up the top card. There was Halimar Depths, Ponder, etc. So Matt has this Deceiver Exarch in play. Turn 5, he plays Ponder. I was watching him. I was like 10 feet away watching. He puts the Splinter Twin. He thinks he puts it on top, but he puts it second on top. And then he grabs the top card of his deck like a wrestler or something and windmill slams it onto the Exarch. And then it was just another Ponder.
Yeah, so I think what had happened was I probably had stacked it on a previous turn, and I think I didn't even look with the Ponder because I
Okay.
just thought I knew it because I'd done a Holomar Depths previously or something like that. Um, but yeah, I was just 100% sure it was a Splinter Twin, so I just grabbed it and slammed it on the table, but it was not a Splinter Twin. So somehow I had done the math wrong or misremembered, and
And
I think I still just found it and had a counter spell up, so I was okay.
I think you
But
were playing against Chapin, right?
Chapin, I don't know who I was playing against. I'm not 100% sure. It was so long ago,
Okay.
but it's possible.
And then the only other match of yours that I remembered being controversial was a long time ago. You played a PTQ with Hell's Thunder. Well, against Hell's Thunder, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. So I don't think I would have handled the situation today the way I did then.
Yeah,
But yeah, I was
it was
playing in a
10 years ago.
yeah 10 years ago, something like that. But yeah, I was playing in a PTQ, and I was playing against Mono Red, and I lose game one, and game two I'm in a good position. But if my opponent can come up with exactly 8 damage of burn, I'll die. Like, I have lethal on board and I'm at 8, so I feel pretty comfortable. But if he comes up with 8 damage, I die. And he went Hell's Thunder, kill you. And so at first I was just surprised, and then I looked down, and both Hell's Thunders were foil and really, really bent. And so I wasn't sure what was going on, so I called the judge, and I told the judge like, "Hey, these, I just noticed these. They they seem really bent." And my opponent also like had mentioned that they were a new player, but then they were doing well in the tournament and playing well, and I thought that that might be like somewhat fishy, and they were kind of shuffling for a long time, and somehow I thought that was fishy. Yeah, again, not would not handle this the same way now. Uh, but um, but I just wanted to let you know. And then at that point, it was I think they were somewhat close to even considering disqualifying me because the timing of the judge call was so weird.
Yeah, like
Because
say that Matt had known the whole time. It's kind of a free roll. You don't say it when you're winning, and you say it when you're losing.
right, like if I thought I was going to win that game, I could save it and then just do it for call the judge for game three. So yeah, if you notice your opponent has a game lossable offense, you want to save it for when you're dead on board is the idea. But that wasn't what I was doing. I just noticed the Hell's Thunders because that's when he played them, and I looked down. But it still definitely looked pretty fishy. And in the end, my opponent did get a game loss. And then I think what happened was the ruling took forever because of all this complicated stuff. And they interviewed me and interviewed my opponent and all this stuff. And so then they would have held up the tournament too long to give us the time extension equal to the time taken. So we got kind of a short time extension. And then we ended up going to a draw. And then this is the part that I definitely wouldn't do now. I was definitely winning game three, so I asked my opponent if they wanted to concede. But and I think we were in a situation where a draw was really bad for us because we maybe already had a draw or something like that. But given that I had just accused my opponent of cheating, asking my opponent to concede was kind of ridiculous. So I definitely would not handle that situation the same way now. But but it was a complicated situation because I did you should call a judge if you notice your opponent has something wrong with their deck, and I did only notice at that point. So it was definitely a complicated situation, but
Yeah, these days it's a little bit different. But when people had their bent Nexus of Fates, they were issued proxies. Um, they
yeah, yeah.
They
I think
all
this was just a card availability thing. The guy just only had the foil Hellsenders, and if he hadn't played much tournament Magic, he may have not known that it was even that bad.
all right. Now I have some questions that I'm stealing from Paulo's AMA, but people
Okay.
probably want to know from any pro. So the number one question was, how do you feel about a lot of Premier play going to Arena? How do you prefer digital or paper?
I prefer paper. I kind of like the social aspect of it and stuff like that. But there's some benefits to Arena. It's certainly Arena events are the only ones we can run right now. So it's cool that we can still run pretty high stakes events right now. And not having to worry about cheating or shuffling or foil Hell's Thunders is certainly something, right? Like it is the integrity of the game being kept for you does have some value. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and as I kind of alluded to before, I do think the like the some of the arena events have had this really cool vibe with sparklers shooting out, and they felt like a major event, kind of one level up even from what pro tours feel like in that way in production value, and that is cool. That you could do some similar stuff for pro tours potentially, but that is cool. I also like that, you know, arena is sometimes easier to follow, and so it's cool to have more people watching when arena tournaments happen. But just from a playing perspective, I still like the physical cards. I'm still a Magic purist, I guess.
Yeah, I understand. And then the next most popular question is, how do you feel about draft being removed from the next couple of pro events? And we talked about how you did really bad at draft at the beginning of your career, and then draft kind of carried you. You had a couple 6-0s later in your career.
Yeah, I think my draft win percentage is probably higher than my constructed win percentage in the last 5 years or something. Yeah, I enjoy draft, and the variety is nice, right? Like just I really like the half and half format that most tournaments, most pro tours and player stores had. Uh, but but yeah, I don't know. I think experimenting is cool. Like one of the things I've kind of learned as a game designer is that one of the best things you can do is just try stuff. And so if I thought this was a forever change and it was guaranteed that all pro tours for the rest of time would be all constructed, that would be pretty concerning to me. But the idea that they're going to try it for this player's tour and then the one after this is guaranteed to have draft in it, and then in the future they'll kind of reevaluate, I think that's a reasonable stance.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Recently, you tweeted that you're looking for illustrators for a game you're working on. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Um, yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of in addition to playing Magic now, I'm in kind of I didn't like doing just Magic, so I do want to get back to game designing, but I felt like now was a good time to kind of try to start my own thing as opposed to uh, just working for a company. So yeah, I'm taking a crack at starting something on my own. There will definitely not too many details at the moment. It's still, in the very early stages, because one of the things that I've found is that art in particular is something that you can get stuck on, where you have the rest of the game ready, but the art is still behind, because if you're making a card game, you need, potentially hundreds of cards to have art. So that's kind of why we put that out there so quickly. But yeah, it's really exciting. So yeah, I'm working with Josh Hutter Layton and another friend, Matt Place, who's former Magic designer and used to play on the Pro Tour way back. And yeah, we'll see what comes of it. I'm definitely excited about it. So
That's good. I know that you have some art in your room. Are those magic arts that you like the most, or you just happen to have them?
there are ones from decks that I liked. I don't know if the arts are particularly the ones I like the most. A couple of them, yeah, the ones in my room right now are Tyrite Spellbomb from KCI, Animation Module from Hardened Scales, and Wirewood Symbiote from Elves. So those are probably my three favorite slash most successful decks.
All pretty good
Yeah,
cards.
Yeah, they're good cards. Yeah, I think the arts on them are good, but yeah, I didn't specifically choose them for the art. It was more for the decks. Yeah.
They all cost 1 mana. That's another good tip for aspiring
Yeah.
players. You should
Yeah,
play
play
cheaper.
with the cheap cards. Yeah. I think you probably embrace that more than almost anyone else, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love cheap cards. And I mean, so does everyone. Like we saw at recent Pro Tours, they show the most played cards, and it's like Thoughtseize, Mystical Dispute, Surgical Extraction, Leyline of the Void. They're all like 1 mana or 0.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Um, all right, that's all the notes I have about Matt Nass. Pretty, pretty good career so far. Um, were you ever? I don't know what's happening to it, but how do you feel about? Was making the Hall of Fame ever a goal of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to. It's kind of tough because I feel like I feel like my like Grand Prix results, like 13 top eights, 5 wins, are on par with a lot of Hall of Famers potentially, or maybe even ahead of some. But the Pro Tour top eights are pretty far behind, right? Four is generally the litmus test, and I have one. So I never really felt that close to it, but I would certainly it would mean a lot to me if I ever did make it. So yeah, I'll definitely keep trying, and maybe if I do put on some good runs going forward. But yeah, it's hard to know what's happening to it, or like what a Pro Tour top eight even means now, right? Like you top eighted the regional Pro Tour in Phoenix, but that doesn't feel like a full Pro Tour top eight, right? You didn't have to compete against the best European or Japanese players in the world. So
Yeah,
or South American, a lot of them went to Europe. Like yeah, a lot of the best players in the world weren't there, and that's going to make it feel different than a Pro Tour where all of the best players in the world are in one place. So yeah, it's hard to evaluate what the Hall of Fame will be, or what the how to measure the new accolades even. But yeah, I would love to make it someday if it still exists and if I can do it.
yeah. I think you have it in you. Maybe you could go on a Javier or Seth like streak.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I sure hope so.
All right. I said earlier you have a pretty good social blade. If you want to follow Matt Nass, you have the same name on every platform. Another good tip. Matthew L. Nass on Twitch and Twitter.
Yep.
And are you still looking for illustrators?
Yeah, sure. If you're an illustrator, just send me over a portfolio on. You can message me on Twitter. My DMs are open.
And keep an eye out for your Spikes Academy course at some point.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Not sure how far down the road that'll be, but should come out at
And
some point.
do you still make content for CFB?
Yeah, I do the newsletter and I do the bandwagon videos with Luis. Um, and occasionally I'll write an article if I'm in the mood, but those are the kind of consistent things I do.
All right, you can subscribe to this newsletter. Or I'm sure those band videos are pretty popular. I'm sure most people
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
those.
yeah. The bandwagons are great.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Jacob.
All right. Take care.